For Your Misinformation is part of the Demcast family of podcasts. What's up, everybody? I'm Katie.
And I'm Morgan.
And this is For Your Misinformation, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to be more politically engaged so we can act in our own best interests.
Let us break down the problem and tell you what we're doing and what you can do to help solve it.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi, Katie.
How are you?
You know, I'm sad. This is the first time that we have recorded since the passing of RBG.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just kind of sad, but I'm also feeling very motivated to live a life that would make her proud. So there's two sides to the coin.
Perfect. And like kind of the only, it's what she would want. That's what she would want you to focus on, clearly. So yeah, I think good job getting to like a healthy place. This is kind of our episode remembering RBG's legacy, but also I do want to remind everybody that Chief Justice John Roberts is garbage. I had a conversation with my mom earlier today. She like came in the living room and she was like, "What are you reading?" And I said an article about John Roberts, and she was like, "Oh yeah, well he's been like he's had some not so bad decisions lately." And I was like, that's how he gets you. Like he's a sneaky,
like Romney or any of those other sneaky white assholes.
Exactly. But first, I think we should talk about RBG and like what she meant to us, and you know, I don't know, anything else, maybe some quotes or anything else that we might want to share. So, do you want to talk a little bit about what she meant to you?
Yeah. RBG, I mean, as a woman in America, meant so much. And I know that so many people listening right now can probably relate. I don't know. For me, like, she is a woman who paved the way in a world that did not want to make space for her. And she did it in just the best way by being unapologetically herself. I think she's the definition of tact and class and just raw, pure feminism and leadership. And I want to thank her for a lot of things, that some of which don't apply directly to my life, but as a person with basic empathy still do. So I'm just going to take a moment to say thank you, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, for the right to receive equal pay for equal work. Thank you for the right to not get fired in the event that I get pregnant. Thank you for the right to rent an apartment or get a mortgage by myself without a man. Thank you for protecting Social Security for spouses whose other spouses passed, so that they might still keep their home and feed their kids. Thank you for protecting my right to bodily autonomy. Thank you for protecting the right to vote. Thank you for allowing me to be able to open a bank account and get a credit card without a man. Thank you for the right to marry who I want to, and the right for all of us to be who we want to and who we are, among many other things.
Yeah. Well said.
May her memory be a revolution.
Yeah. When Trump's Supreme Court list came out a couple weeks ago or whatever, like it wasn't even really on my radar that I needed to be worried about that, so I didn't even pay that much attention to it. But it is particularly frightening, I think. I mean, all of them in their own way, but yeah, I mean, Tom Cotton just came out and said that it's time to overturn Roe versus Wade. So it's scary. It's like, it feels like this is when everybody's started paying attention, but it's like all the dominoes are already lined up to fall by now. Like Trump's impact on and McConnell's impact on the courts is going, we've barely even started to feel it yet. And it'll be like that for decades, and it's just really scary. So yeah, I don't know. I was reading some of her autobiography. I don't know, but one of the things that I thought was really interesting was she said that her father-in-law's advice for starting law school, she said, "Ruth, if you don't want to start law school, you have a good reason to resist the undertaking. Nobody will think less of you if you make that choice. But if you really want to study law, you will stop worrying and find a way to manage child and school. And that's what she did. She just was like, okay, well, then I'll just get a nanny from 8 to 4. And she also said that, like, she felt like having that deliberate break between school and, like, motherhood was enabled her to do, like, a really good job at both. Like, she just wanted to give, like, school her all when she was at school, and she wanted to give, like, parenthood her all when she was parenting. And it was just, like, it just reminded me that, like, oh yeah, like, even RBG, like, has a work-life balance, I guess, that that is good, and that we should all aspire to.
Mm-hmm. God, she's just goals in every single way.
I know, right?
And I also think, like, what you just mentioned there is such a good reminder that she means so much to all of us in America, but she was so much more than just an icon. She was also loved on such a deeper level by the people who knew her. You know, she was loved by all of us, but there's a lot of people that are mourning in a very different way than you or I, because they really knew her, and they'll never listen to this podcast, but we're thinking about them too.
Yes, for sure. In her final days, Justice Ginsburg said that her most fervent wish is that she not be replaced until a new president is installed. And in that spirit, we are going to give you guys our actions now instead of waiting until the end of the episode. And I think we are going to start doing that towards the beginning of episodes now through the election, so that I know some people drop off. I want to make sure that everybody gets to hear our actions. Plus, I feel like I've done a pretty good job of sticking to my plan. So I'm excited. I'm, like, proud of myself. So I don't know. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first. So I did over the weekend do calls for Planned Parenthood votes.
Yay!
For Sarah Gideon in Maine.
How was that?
It was great. It was really great. It's so easy and non-scary, and you all can still do it. That is still something you can do. I know that when we posted it about the week of action, maybe it seemed like, oh, well, the week is over. No. It's not over till the election's over.
Yeah.
So you can definitely still volunteer.
Yeah. And that link is still in our link tree if you want to volunteer. I was FaceTiming with a friend earlier today who said she signed up for the same shift as me tomorrow. So like you said, it's still happening, and you can join in on the fun.
Yeah. And then I am also taking part in friend banking. So it's text banking, but it's specific to people that I'm either friends or just, like, know, making that, like, real personal connection and everything. So it's text banking, but just with a little bit different approach.
How did you find that?
Yeah, I just found that through Teresa Greenfield's campaign in Iowa, which is somebody that I'm working hard to get elected. Right. And so, you know, if you're not in Iowa, if you are in Iowa, reach out and I can get you hooked up with the friend banking. If you're not in Iowa, you can still take part in, like, a version of this. Just text 3 people, and make sure that they are registered to vote. Make sure that they have requested their absentee ballot. If you're in a state in which you have to request the absentee ballot, it's not just sent to you. And make sure that they have committed to filling that ballot out. You can even tell them that you can help, or tell them that we'll help if they need help. And then make sure they return it. Tell them to return it by October 20th at the latest. Just talk them through that. Check back in a couple of weeks. And if they're not going to vote by mail, that's okay. We're not shaming people who are not doing that, but make sure that they have a voting plan. Encourage them to get to the polls early. You can go to usually your administration building or city hall, city building to vote early. Part of the reason that's so important is because of coronavirus. They're going to be limiting the number of people in polling places. They're going to be limiting the number of people who can wait in line. They're going to be requiring social distancing between people waiting in line. So, you know, if you're 100 people deep in a line where everyone's 6 feet apart, you're going to be probably standing outside for a very long time. You don't want to be doing that on November 3rd. You're probably not going to have time for that. Just 3 friends. Text 3 friends about that. Check in with them and try to get them involved. Try to get them to all text 3 friends too. You know, maybe you end up with 10 friends instead of 3. But if you think about that, it can kind of be like exponentially growing the number of
Yes.
people who actually get to the polls.
And just to
and-
give, can I give an example of
Yeah.
that happened today? So Renee, my friend who lives in California, who is joining text banking tomorrow for Sarah Gideon, she got her friend Shelby to join. So it's just, you might not even know the impact that you have because, it's multiplying down the line people that you don't even know. So
Yep,
it makes a difference.
exactly. Yeah, it just multiplies, and that's so important. A lot of the races this year are probably going to come down to just like 1,000 votes.
Yeah.
And
Too many are going to be very close.
Yeah, there's a lot of very close elections this year. There is a very short amount of time between now and the biggest election of our lives. We can all find the time.
This is the election's in 36 days.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
no, I have to be keeping my commitments. It's in just over a month.
Yep, that's and
Jesus.
keep in mind too, that's your last day to vote.
Right.
You can vote early.
A
You're
lot of
encouraged
people
to
could
vote
start
early.
voting now.
Yep.
In
So
Illinois,
bring people
ballots.
with you to the polls.
Sorry.
No, it's
say that
okay.
again.
Sorry, I was gonna say bring people with you to the polls too. If you're gonna go anyway and go early, ask your neighbor or a friend or somebody to come with you. I mean, obviously, try to keep them somebody that's like in your circle if you can, at least from like a safe social distance kind of thing. But wear your masks, bring people, try to still make it fun. Voting used to be fun. We'd all vote and then go to the bar or somebody's house and like have a party and watch the numbers roll in and then either leave really happy or in tears like we did in 2016. We can still do versions of that. Just do it a week early.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Party all month.
One of the easiest things that you can do to get involved this week is text RBG to 50409. So that's ResistBot. We love ResistBot. So that will contact your representatives for you. It will send them an email or a letter that says no justice should be voted on until there's a new president installed. I have done that already. Make sure it is so easy. So again, just text RBG to 50409. That is the precedent that Mitch McConnell set the last year before election in the Supreme Court. It's just fundamentally unfair to think that that rule would apply to him and not apply to the next president or the next justice that needs to get confirmed the year before an election or in an election year. We should draw a line and just, it's like children can understand that this is unfair and fundamentally wrong. So make your voice heard. Like, make sure that your representatives hear from you. They need to hear that there are a ton of people who are outraged by this. So go ahead and do that right now. Text RBG to 50409. We'll wait. What else did I commit to do this week? Okay, so I did my Sarah Gideon phone bank last week. I'm doing it again this week. I guess it'll probably be something that I commit to through the election because I don't know, Mary's so fun, and why wouldn't I? Oh, man, I really didn't realize. I was going to say soon I will start adding an indivisible phone bank a week, but like I should start that now. So next time we record, hopefully I have done that. Clark did it last week. I heard him on a call that sounded so sad, and when he got off the call, I was like, what just happened? And he was like, Marcella had to go to the hospital because she was getting her toes amputated. And I was like, oh, I thought Marcella died. Like, I for sure thought that the person on the other end of that line, like when the phone call was over and I learned that it was just that she was having her toes amputated, I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And I also was like, hey, Clark, if I ever need to go to the hospital and get my toes amputated, please don't tell strangers who call the house that, maybe. And he was like, got it. I promise not to do that.
Marcella, we hope you're doing well. That
We do.
honestly sounds extremely traumatic.
Thoughts and prayers to Marcella. I'm actually technically text banking to Texas right now, and it's been going better than I thought. I got a text today that said, I'm voting for Trump, dear. I know that that doesn't sound great, but when you see the other texts that tell me that they're voting for Trump, like the fact that she called me dear, like, you don't seem impressed.
I mean, if it's a little old lady calling you dear, I guess it's fine. But if it's a man, it's gross.
Oh,
And
no. It was like a
so.
very little old lady name. Like,
Okay.
Yeah, no,
I'll allow it.
Like, I was
Your name better be Bonnie if you're calling me dear. That's what I'm saying.
Or like Gladys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not doing text bank bingo right now, but if you sign up to do Zoom in Indivisitext bingo, they have a bingo they have a bingo card that has like every time somebody says MAGA, you like do a thing, and every time that somebody's already requested a ballot, like that's a check. Every time somebody or wants to volunteer, like just that asks how they can also volunteer, like that's one. And now there's actual prizes, so if you win Indivisitext bingo
fun.
during your shift, they'll like Indivisible will legitimately mail you a prize. I don't know what any of the prizes are yet, but like starting this week or last week, like there's legitimate prizes. So if you sign up for shifts, like right now I'm just text banking like on my lonesome, like I'm a rogue text banker, but you can text bank in shifts over Zoom, and then you can like play bingo while you're texting, and there's like legitimate prizes, which is so fun.
Oh, I love that. That's fun. Yeah. The ones that I've done have also been like at a scheduled time with other people on Zoom, and it was nice and it was fun because you could kind of all talk or like have music playing.
Yeah,
and you could
exactly.
just mute when you were actually on the phone. And yeah, it's actually really fun. Plus, it's kind of nice to feel like other people are there in the event that you do get somebody who's like not thrilled that you called. I know I had one that like I definitely made a face after they were like, leave me alone. And I was like, oh God. Somebody's like, oh, what they say? Were they really mean? And yeah, they were, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Like some people are just having a bad day when you call them. And that's an important thing to remember. Even I'm cranky sometimes when I get calls.
Yes. And you can tell via text when people are having a bad day too. And it's my favorite to respond to that with like, okay, well, like have a good day. Just to be like, I know you tried to make sure that like I was having a shitty day and it didn't work. Goodbye forever. It's just fun. Okay. What else did I commit to? I wrote more than my 20 letters. I wrote 60 letters to Maine just because that's like my soothing, like calm down activity, which is just like, okay, just sit at the table and write some letters. I haven't started yet, but you know what? It was phone banking for Marie Newman. Okay. So as you all know, I'm in Illinois' 3rd district. Marie Newman just beat Dan Lipinski in our primary, so she is going against a really, really terrible Republican. A poll just came out last week, and they were within like 3 points of each other, which is so scary. Like, that's exactly what people warned us would happen, that like we would, and it's not. I mean, whatever, it's not, but it's like, oh, we can't just coast. Like, so on Tuesdays, my entire Indivisible group is starting. I mean, they already do phone banking on Tuesdays, but like starting now, my Indivisible group is going to start joining for those phone banking on Tuesdays, including me, because there's no way that we're going from Dan Lipinski to a Republican. Like, no, we worked too hard for Marie Newman to win that primary for her not to win this seat. So that's the phone banking that I want to start doing. And I'm less anxious about that for some reason because I'm like actually in Marie's district. So like they really are my neighbors. So that's, I commit to doing all of those things next week too. Like I did a pretty good job of doing them this week. I would like to do similar ones next week. And I would also like to offer, like, if any of you are overwhelmed by the opportunities and you want to figure out like which ones are for you, I would say our link tree is a good place to start. But if you just want to like talk to us and be like, where, like what would be good for me? Like I have this amount of time or I have these resources. Where should I put them? Like let me tell you, like we're not going to be inundated by requests. So if like you would like help, we can definitely fit you in. Like go ahead. And same goes for sample ballots. Actually, I'd like to tell you guys what our episodes between now and the election are going to be, so you can send in questions if you want to send in questions, just so that you know like what you can expect. We're going to talk about QAnon some more. We're going to talk about the Illinois Fair Tax Amendment and just graduated income taxes in general and how important that is. We're going to talk about how shitty Jared Kushner is and how his whole family is like deranged. They're basically slumlords. We're going to talk about Betsy DeVos and her horrible oligarch family, how bad billionaires are for America. We're going to talk about Kamala and how cool she is, and also how the importance of changing your opinion once you get new information. like how she changed her opinion on the way that she prosecuted and drug laws. And then last but not least, and actually we don't know what order we're going to do these in, but we are going to go over definitely how to do an Illinois ballot. We're going to go over a California ballot with our friend Delaney. Morgan, should we go over yours too, just for fun?
We possibly can.
We know that most of our listeners are from Illinois and California, so that's why we said that. But if you want any other states, let us know.
Yes. Yeah, it doesn't have to be Iowa, Illinois, or California. Let us know, because you can get a sample ballot online.
Exactly. We can find your sample ballot on Ballotpedia just like you can. So, yeah. All right. Was there anything else that we wanted to say about RBG, or can I go ahead and talk about John Roberts?
Let's talk about John Roberts. Yeah. Every Confederate monument should be replaced by a monument of Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah.
And now we're going to talk about how much Justice John Roberts sucks.
Perfect. I got a lot of this information, or this was mostly inspired by an article written by Mondaire Jones in Data for Progress. He had a lot of good points, and earlier, especially when my mom was like, well, he's had a lot of more moderate decisions lately, it's like, oh no, that's exactly how they get you. He had some pretty moderate decisions at the end of the last Supreme Court term, and they were, let's see, he upheld DACA. He also
like, he shouldn't get to be claimed a hero for like making a couple moderate decisions in his interpretation of the law.
Please note that they were made the year before an election. He very strategically makes his more moderate decisions in election year, or like right before elections, so that he doesn't like rile up the people that would be the most mad, us, basically.
Yep.
So he's like scheming, and I want everybody to
at least Brett Kavanaugh has the decency to just be purely shit and not even try to make himself smell remotely nice.
Right.
I mean, smell like figuratively.
Right.
Maybe literally, I have no idea what he smells like, but you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least he doesn't even try to be decent.
Yes. But we are not, I don't know. We're not going to just sit back and like watch as the Trump administration lights American democracy on fire. We have all of those actions above, like get involved. There's not so many days left before the election. But like I said, the dominoes are set up already to fall and like start fucking with democracy quickly. And it doesn't even matter if Biden gets elected, because there's a hearing for the ACA a week after the election. And if John Roberts is the moderating voice, then like I think the ACA is going down. And that is why I, for real, am going to schedule a time. My IUG expires in April, and I, for real, am going to get a new one before the election, because I want to make sure that birth control is covered for the next 5 years. And I don't think I'll have health insurance soon, probably. So, cool. Everybody, is your life better off now than it was 4 years ago?
No.
Just checking. Yeah. So I don't want anybody, like, I want to take time to acknowledge RBG, and then I want to make sure that nobody is getting fooled by John Roberts, because he has like carefully scheduled that oral argument for the ACA challenge 1 week after Election Day. But yeah, okay, so during last term, he ruled on 3 cases that made him seem more moderate. They struck down a Louisiana abortion restriction. They also blocked Trump's attempt to end DACA. And then they upheld a ruling that barred workplace discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. So I'm glad that he did that. But again, that's like the bare minimum. And these cases are really just like shiny objects that are supposed to distract you from the real like work that John Roberts and his court are doing to entrench Republican power. And for whenever he gets a chance, when it comes down to it, he will always vote to protect voter suppression schemes and maximize the GOP's chances at the ballot box. And you can see it over and over and over again. I'm not going to tell you about all the cases, but I do want to highlight Shelby County versus Holder, which was a 2013 ruling that you might remember, but we were in college, so I don't know. But this is like at the heart of the Voting Rights Act, like would require pre-clearance of voting rules pre-clearance of voting rules changes in places where there was like a history of voter disenfranchisement. He ruled that was unconstitutional because racial discrimination is no longer a serious problem in the South.
Yeah.
Like this is like right now he's probably he's definitely the most powerful like judicial appointment in the land. Mm-hmm. And he's so far from reality that he ruled. So he either is like out of touch or makes decisions, like makes racist decisions. Like which one is it? But they're both bad.
A wealthy white man, a wealthy old white man mm-hmm. in a position of all of this power got to just decide racism wasn't a thing in the South. And that impacted so many people. Remember when we talked about the purging of the voter rolls during our swing state episode about Georgia? Exactly. This is exactly what we're talking about. Yes. And when we say Black Lives Matter, we mean this. We mean the white privilege that is a man who has never had any part of his life decided by any Supreme Court ruling.
He doesn't know what it's
getting to make these calls. Just so he's either blatantly racist or he's glaringly out of touch.
The audacity. Yeah. He also ruled that independent redistricting commissions are unconstitutional, which is so ridiculous. So H.R. 1 was the very first bill that was passed in the House. Of course, just like most of them, hundreds of them, it's just chilling on Mitch McConnell's desk / graveyard. That bill includes independent redistricting commissions because they're a good idea, because like they're not Democratic or Republican. They are a third party that can just, without bias, draw congressional maps. And that's what we should have. Like they've fought hard to make that happen in Michigan, but like H.R. 1 just makes them a reality. So like I said, all these dominoes are already set up. Even if we win the White House, we win the Senate, and we keep the House, even if H.R. 1 like passes, blah, 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 John Roberts, if like that's going to be challenged at some point, and the Roberts court is going to deem it unconstitutional. And there's a lot of other examples like that. And it's like that's already in place. There's almost nothing we can do about it. We're fighting to make sure that it doesn't get even more like right wing and Republican by having Trump replace RBGC, It's just, It's very stressful to think about all this lasting damage that's done to the courts,
Yeah. It really is, like, especially like the courts are lifetime appointments.
Yeah.
And they're wanting to appoint all these young, completely conservative and we're not meaning like conservative in like the good way. We're meaning conservative in the like fascist way. Like I like don't want to sound totally alarmist in that, but honestly,
well, look where not being alarmist
it no longer right, exactly. It no longer sounds alarmist.
No, not at all.
Ugh, John Roberts is awful.
Yeah. So after retaking the House in 2018, Democrats demonstrated their commitment to strengthening democracy by passing H.R. 1, which is called the For the People Act. And it includes measures like automatic voter registration, which would by itself, which it would enfranchise nearly 50 million voters nationally. It includes public financing of congressional campaigns. That would get rid of dark money. Like if the public had to fund, it's what they do. They do it in a lot of other countries. Like campaign seasons are much, much shorter, so they don't experience this stress for as long. But also they're publicly funded so that the people who are running have the same amount of money and they can't be influenced by other people, by big corporations or PACs or super PACs or foreign leaders, or they get the money that they get, and they get it from in a totally transparent way, and it's so superior. And guess the only Democratic owned part of our government right now, that's what they're passing. They're trying to get more voters enfranchised. They're trying to make sure there's automatic voter registration. They're trying to make sure that there's public financing of campaigns. They're fixing go back and listen to our dark money episode. Like, that fixes this. Like, there's a bill in like past the House, in the Senate, waiting to fix these issues that we've talked about. Mitch McConnell won't pass it. And even if some of these things do get passed, like, the John Roberts court is ready to vote it down. And it's scary, and I hate it.
Yeah, it's scary, and most Americans don't agree.
Right.
Most Americans do not agree with what Mitch McConnell is doing and with what John Roberts is doing.
Right.
And so, it's like, it's not actually a democracy if the people who are making the decisions aren't making the decisions.
They're the minority.
People have demanded.
Right.
And we got to change it. We got to protect democracy, because like the way that we have influence in our government is by electing people. That's basically it. That's the power that we have. And that's why everybody's like going insane right now about telling everybody to vote, including us.
Right.
I shouldn't use the word insane, but because like this is the only way that we get to make decisions, is by voting. That's the only way we really get to make our voice heard. And John Roberts, he's appointed. Yeah. And the person that appoints him is a very important elected official in our, like, who has these positions matters. I'm so tired of hearing people say things like, well, it doesn't really matter who's president anyway. Well, it absolutely does.
That's a really good point that you say, like, it matters who gets elected, because like it has not been transparent enough. Like, the Russia investigation has not been transparent enough that we know if Donald Trump really was elected, like if he really was democratically elected. And then that puts his appointments like at in question, to say the least. And that's why, like, given John Roberts' court track record, like, we have every reason to believe that it's far right, anti-democratic majority will come up with, I don't know, it's just, they'll come up with reasons to strike down crucial provisions. And we can't, I just want to make sure that nobody falls for his like strategic passing of those three semi-moderate things right before the election, because it's misdirection. Yeah,
and it's kind of working.
Like it worked on my mom,
right? Right, exactly. Yeah. It worked on your mom, and she's a very smart person. Look at Mitt Romney right now. Today, my Twitter was so mad at Mitt Romney. We were mad at Mitt Romney, but at the same time, like,
he makes us look stupid.
He has shown us who he is, and this is just another example of that.
He puts his dog on his car. He's a bad guy. He puts his dog in a cage on his car, and he drives 12 hours across country. We should have known. He showed us. We know who he is.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, but for a while, people were fooled that maybe this person's actually capable of making decisions that are best for this country.
Yeah. He marched in one Black Lives Matter rally, and we were like, maybe he gets it. And it's like, no, we should have known.
No, absolutely not.
So we can't lose sight of the fact that, like, the court is very partisan now. I mean, Brett Kavanaugh, in his confirmation, talked about how, I don't know, it was a smear campaign by the Clintons. Like, he makes the Supreme Court a not supreme place. But we know that the partisan majority on the Supreme Court is going to take every opportunity to lock Democrats out of power. And voters need to send like a strong progressive Congress to fight for our democracy, because like the judiciary is fucked up for a while. And they need to be prepared to counter the Supreme Court's attempts to block its duly enacted legislation, which includes passing legislation to expand the court. And like, I want people, like, Brett Kavanaugh is not a legitimately appointed like member of the court. Like, we have to think outside of the box, I guess, is like, I don't know what all the answers are, but I know that like they're not playing fair and we can't play fair. They make us look like suckers. Like, it's just, if we don't like, I don't know, stand strong, we may not get another chance to govern, is what I'm saying. So we have to make sure that we elect like progressive leaders who can think outside of the box, because we might, who knows how long we'll have a chance to govern if we don't do that.
RBG got where she is by not being scrappy.
Yeah. She was polite, but she was scrappy.
Yeah. Like,
and smart.
Just because you're tough and scrappy and knowing how to fight the fight doesn't mean that you have to be vulgar and embarrassing. It doesn't mean you have to be like Brett Kavanaugh, blubbering and shouting and screaming about how much he loves beer in order to get where you are.
At all.
Yeah, you can fight, and you can fight hard as fuck and still be dignified and still, you can go high when they've gone low in a way that still gets the job done. Yeah. And Democrats need to do that before this country is just sunk.
Yep, exactly. All right, so we promised to keep this episode a little bit shorter. We already gave you our actions. Just please keep in mind that John Roberts is garbage and he's trying to trick you into thinking he's not garbage, and it's not going to work. Ballots should be coming in the mail soon if you're voting by mail. Some states already have early voting. Remember, your last day to vote is November 3rd. If you are voting in person, or even if you're not, you can head to ballotpedia.org and you can find your sample ballot there. You are totally welcome to fill that out ahead of time and bring it with you. In fact, you really should. In our episode about sample ballots, we'll talk more about like best practices, but I know that there's going to be people voting before then. You're totally welcome to bring that with you. That's not like cheating. It's not a test. You should definitely bring that with you. You can take a picture of it and bring your phone. You're allowed to bring your phone too. I've even, back in my days when I was a less informed and prepared individual, I've like texted my dad mid-vote to be like, what does this ballot initiative mean? And he was like, just say yes. It's like, okay, thank God. But yeah, in Illinois, the very first thing on your ballot will be the Illinois Fair Tax Amendment. Vote yes for the Illinois Fair Tax. Again, we'll have a whole episode about that, but that'll be the very first thing that pops up. But yeah, you can bring your phone, you can bring papers, you can text your dad and ask what ballot measures mean, but don't impress him and don't need his help. You just need our help.
Yep.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
I forgot the other action that I signed up to be a poll worker.
Oh my gosh, you did? That's awesome.
Yeah, I did. I haven't gotten like my confirmation for it yet. They just like asked for some information and I submitted it, and they'll decide whether they like me enough to pick me as a poll worker. Wow. But yeah, so I signed up to be a poll worker. It's very easy. So I really kind of hope that they pick me. I'm kind of sad that I haven't gotten an email yet about it, but I haven't even been a week yet. So.
I think isn't there a shortage?
Yeah, there is. But like the thing that at least, again, it's going to be different depending on where you live. Yeah. Where I live, they want you to say that you're available to work a whole shift, which is like a whole day. And I'm like, I have a full-time job, so I'm not. Yeah. I'm happy to be there from like 4:30 p.m. until 10 p.m. But like, that's the best I'm going to do. Because of work. So
that's awesome. I'm so proud of you. I don't really have any kitten updates except they're doing great. They produce a shocking amount of poop, but we've taken them out on the screen porch and they really like it out there.
Oh, you're so cute.
Yeah, they're doing great.
Abby is doing very well.
Yay.
So my pup's doing great. She's had her staples removed and has been able to go for some walks. Yay. We're not ready for runs or the dog park yet, but she's doing really well. She even has had the energy to like just do a couple of her quirky things, like run away from her own farts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's so she's back in full form. It's amazing to see.
I think a listener contributed to her GoFundMe, but that is still in our link tree if anybody else wants to contribute. Also, we would really appreciate it. Our little pod pup.
Our pod pup.
Yeah.
She's the best.
All right. Well, oh, sorry.
Nope. Go ahead. We're good.
Then we will talk to you guys next week. We'll have a different episode. And in the meantime, stay sexy and
live the life that RBG would want you to.
Perfect. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for listening to For Your Misinformation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you like it, give us a rating and a review. It helps us find more listeners, and the more of us there are, the better.
And make sure you're following along on Instagram and Twitter at FYMI Pod.
Shout out to Kyle Dibdahl for the intro and outro music, Hope Dye for the podcast art, and Ben Schlofelt for the audio production.
We come out with new episodes every Monday.
For Your Misinformation is part of the Demcast family of podcasts.